We are hearing that today, Monday, October the 13th, 2025, that history has been made. I'm going to share with you the video footage so you can see it for yourself. As take a look, coming out today. Peace in the Middle East. Trump signs a ceasefire deal in Egypt. U.S. President Donald Trump and other world leaders signed the first phase of the Gaza ceasefire agreement during a summit in Egypt after Israeli hostages and Palestinian prisoners and detainees were released. Trump posted in front of a banner which read Peace 2025 as he greeted individually the world leaders attending the event, including Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas. Now, the U.S. President, Egypt's President Sisi, Qatar's Emir Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani, and Turkey's President Erdogan placed their signatures on the document that sealed the first phase of the ceasefire deal. We've achieved what everybody said was impossible. At long last, we have peace in the Middle East, said Trump during a news conference. And now I'm going to play for you the video footage. Now, if you appreciate what Donald Trump is doing, what he has accomplished, drop a 47 in the comments. Now, in addition to that, we heard that the Nobel Peace Prize, they said, needed to be presented to Donald Trump. He said he believed that he deserved it. Well, we heard that it was given to somebody else. Now, the woman that received the Nobel Peace Prize, she said, I received this in honor of Donald Trump, who deserved to receive this for what he has done. In addition to that, we've actually heard that Hillary Clinton has come out and applauded President Donald Trump for what he has done. Wow. If you know, I never thought, to be honest, that I would ever hear Hillary Clinton offering accolades to President Donald Trump for what he has done with creating peace in the Middle East. In fact, we're going to be watching some video footage as Bill Clinton has done the same as well. The Clintons offering applause to President Donald Trump. If you appreciate what is unfolding with peace being created in the Middle East, drop a 47 in the comments. Also, hit that like button for me. Subscribe to stay up to date as we're seeing history being made today. I'm going to play for you the latest video footage so that way you can see it for yourself. And so, as always, everything I'm going to be referencing is going to be linked in the description, but I've just got a ton of video footage so that way you can see history being made today. Let's go ahead and get right to it. Dive into the video footage.
President Trump now signing that historic Gaza deal. Let's listen in.
Some were brought in and some were not. And they're working out to find out where those bodies are. It's hard to believe that you even have to say something like that. It's so sad. It's so sad. But what's not sad is that we have finally, after, I guess they say 3,000 years. I've heard from 3,000 years to 500 years, but whatever it is, it's a lot. But this was the one, this was the granddaddy of them all. And frankly, I thought this was probably going to be the toughest, and maybe in many ways it was, but we had a lot of good talent. Steve Witkoff, Jared, Marco, and Pete, and General Kane was so great. John Ratcliffe was incredible. We had an amazing array of talent, and we were helped by, in particular, the countries represented at this table. I will say, Tamim, you were fantastic, and your country is unbelievable, and I don't think they give you a fair shake. They talk about you as though you're not a nice person, and you happen to be a nice person. You happen to live in a little tough neighborhood. You're surrounded by everybody, and without you, this wouldn't have happened. And I just want to thank you very much. That's Qatar. And he's an amazing leader, and another man who's been a friend of mine for a long time. I don't know what it is. I like the tough people better than I like the soft, easy ones. I don't know what the hell that is. It's a personality problem, I suspect. But this gentleman from a place called Turkey has one of the most powerful armies actually in the world. It's much more powerful than he even lets known. If you look at some of the recent conflicts, he was at the top of them, and he was winning them, and he did win them. And he doesn't want any credits. He doesn't want anything. He just wants to be left alone. He's a tough cookie, but he's been my friend. And every time I've ever needed him, he's been there for me. So I just want to thank President Erdogan, Turkey. With him because he is difficult. They called me. They said, would you do me a favor? Could you speak to Erdogan? And I do, and he never fails us, right, General? He never fails. He's amazing. So I just want to thank you for the friendship. It's great. Thank you very much. And then, of course, we have the host, tonight, and I just want to thank you very much. There was a reason we chose Egypt, because you were very helpful, and very, very helpful. Everybody wanted to have this, but we really thought it was appropriate, and you are a great leader. We have very little crime. We have problems that other countries don't have, and of course, nothing's perfect, but the job you do is amazing, and I want to thank you. Another one, we've been my friend right from the beginning. During the campaign against crooked Hillary Clinton. Have you heard of her? We were both downstairs waiting to go up to meet this gentleman who has a place called Egypt, the oldest civilization. They say 6,000 years. China is 5,000 years, but you're actually number one, 6,000 years. Can you believe it? But the oldest, they say, civilization. But so I went up to meet him first, and we liked each other so much that she waited for about an hour and a half. And I think your meeting lasted about 2 minutes with her. So I always remembered that. But that was our first meeting. We had great chemistry together. And he's a fantastic man and a fantastic general, by the way. But he's a great president. And I want to thank Egypt and all of your representatives for treating us all so well. We're really representative of a whole group of nations, and they're sitting behind us, and you know most of them. I can tell you this guy's got so much money. They all have so much money. There's more money and power sitting behind us. I love that they're behind us. We've never been sitting behind anybody before. This is a very unique position for them, but they are seriously, they're among the most powerful countries in the world, the richest countries in the world, and there's never been really an assemblage like what we have today. I don't think I've never seen it anyway. And I want to thank everybody for being with us. Man, I just solved the war for him. Azerbaijan. Did I do a good job? Where did you come here? Where is area? You guys are still getting along, right? They fought for 32 years, and in about 1 hour we settled it, right? And they like each other now, too. It's good. That's great. Well, I want to thank everybody for being here. Italy, she's a very strong ruler. He's doing a great job. You're doing a great job. Thank you very much. So many, but we're actually going to be making a speech after this, so this is just a very important signing, but we're doing a signing, then we're doing a speech, and then I may stay behind with the leaders just to talk about that, some things without the press. I want to thank the media for you've been so respectful on this deal. You know the importance of the deal, and I really, it was so pleasant to watch. I was on the plane for quite a while listening to the various newscasts, and they were all fair. They were talking about how incredible this is. This is an incredible day for the world, let alone the Middle East. So I just wanted to thank the media. They really treated it with respect. I wish you could be like that on other things, but that's perhaps too much to ask for. But on this, tremendous, everybody feels the same. Just tremendous respect, and we appreciate it very much. Can we get the documents, please? Okay.
Right here.
Okay. Okay. This took 3,000 years to get to this point. Can you believe it? And it's going to hold up, too. It's going to hold up. Okay, thank you. You can use my pen if you want. Have a pen? Want to use mine? Okay. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Well, I think we're going to hold it up. I don't hold up the signature page, yeah. So we're going to go and I'm going to say a few words. We'll give you a little speech, and then we're going to meet with the leaders after that and spend a little time together without the media. The media is invited to the speech. I just want to tell you the people behind me and some of the people in the room that are so helpful, but the people behind me are the greatest leaders, most powerful leaders, the richest leaders, frankly. Sometimes it's not politically correct to say that, but I'll say it, the richest in the world that the world has ever seen. And yet when you get to know them, I know every one of them in their own way, and I can say in particular some, because that's the way life works, but some of the greatest people you'll ever meet, and people that really care for their countries. And why this happened is they all came together and they wanted to get Gaza straightened out. They wanted to get the whole thing straightened out. It got to a point where it was just crazy. And once they got together and once we started talking, it went really, Tamim, it went smoothly. It went so smoothly. You were such a big help, but it went so smoothly that nobody can even believe it, that we're sitting here and getting this all certified out and all done. And everybody's happy about it. Everybody's happy about it, like I've never seen before, actually. I've done other deals, and people don't care as much. Big deals, I think they're big deals, but this is something that's taken off like a rocket ship. And it did from the beginning, and I've heard for years, this is the biggest deal, it'll never happen. For years, long before I ran for office, that this is the Middle East. It's the biggest, most complicated deal. And also it's the place that could lead to tremendous problems like World War III. They always talked about World War III would start in the Middle East, and that's not going to happen. We don't want it to start anywhere, actually, but it's not going to happen. So I just want to thank everybody, and I'll see you in a little while. And in particular, thank you all. Thank you, Tamim, Mr. General. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Great job. Great job. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.
There you have it, you guys. Historic moment today as we saw that peace deal in the Middle East signed by Donald Trump, hosted in Egypt. You saw presidents, leaders of this peace agreement coming together. They're saying it was absolutely historic. Now, that was the actual signing. I've got a lot more footage for you. The release of the hostages has unfolded. They're saying that this couldn't have happened without the United States striking on Iranian facilities. Also, you're going to be seeing Bill Clinton as well coming out and saying kudos to Donald Trump. Hillary Clinton did the same as well. People are coming out and saying this is absolutely historic. You heard Donald Trump say it took 3,000 years for this to happen. Let's go ahead and watch the video footage so you can see it for yourself.
I want to bring in Trey Yingst. He's live in Jerusalem for us, and he actually got an exclusive interview with President Trump right after his historic address to Israel's Knesset. Trey.
Yeah, Dana, Aisha, good morning. President Trump speaking exclusively with Fox News following his address to the Israeli Knesset. His focus was on the hostages that were released following that historic peace plan. Here's what the president had to say. Mr. President, thank you for speaking with Fox News.
Thank you very much. And you're doing a great job, by the way.
Thank you, sir. 20 Israelis who were held hostage by Hamas for more than 2 years were released today as part of your peace plan. What did that moment mean to you?
Well, everything. You see the enthusiasm really beyond Israel, all over the world. I've never seen anything like it. And I think it just means peace for the Middle East. And it somehow represents, they become representatives of peace for the Middle East. And that's why it's gone like this. Nobody's ever seen anything quite like it.
Talk me through how this deal came together. There were very intense negotiations. Our reporting indicates that you were personally on the phone to get this across the finish line. What happened, and when did you know that Hamas was going to release the hostages?
Well, I'll tell you, I think it really started when we took out the nuclear capability of Iran. When you look at what they had, you couldn't have made this deal if somebody's sitting over there with a nuclear weapon over your head. And I think when we did that, and there were other obviously very warlike things that we did over the course of 4 or 5 years, if you know, setting the table. But when we did when we took away that destructive capability from Iran.
The president spoke about a variety of topics concerning the Middle East, and he also talked about this very important summit that's taking place tonight in Sharm el-Sheikh, Egypt. He's brought together some of the world's most influential people that have the funds that can ultimately implement the ideas and projects that the president has. And he wanted to make clear in the course of our interview that the Gaza ceasefire is just the first step in a larger peace plan to try and stabilize the Middle East. And that's likely what's going to be discussed in Sharm el-Sheikh tonight as the president is there with his team, that short flight from Israel. And we do expect additional statements to come out of this meeting as the president, again, wants to send this message that this is the very beginning of what is expected to be a much broader peace across the Middle East. Guys?
Trey Yingst, thank you so much.
Hey, everyone.
Another live look here, a somber welcome home. You're watching live the convoy of the 4 coffins of deceased hostages that have crossed into Israel. The IDF and the ISA have released a joint statement saying the 4 coffins of the deceased hostages are being escorted by IDF and ISA forces. They crossed over the border into the state of Israel a short time ago and are on their way to the National Institute for Forensic Medicine, of which we also have a live shot right now outside of the National Institute of Forensic Medicine. This is where the identification procedures will be carried out. IDF representatives are accompanying the families, and the IDF is urging the public to act with sensitivity and wait for official identification, which will be first communicated to the families of these deceased hostages. We'll continue to watch and bring you the latest on all of this as we look live at Tel Aviv as 4 coffins of deceased hostages return home. All right, John.
And Martha McCallum, we bring back our panel here, and we have President Trump and Air Force One arriving at Sharm el-Sheikh. I'm trying to think about what those leaders are thinking as he's coming into the room, because it's such a decisive moment in history, and they're all going to be in there together, and they have a choice to make. You know, you can be with us or against us, and I think that for everybody gathered there, it looks like they want to be on the winning team.
Yeah, I think that most of these countries are looking at this moment in a calculating way, I would say, for their own country. And yes, they want to be on the side of the United States in this moment. And also, Dana, I keep thinking about what it's like for Vladimir Putin right now, or President Xi. If you're watching all of this unfold and you are seeing the power of this president in this moment, gathering all these nations, you have Iran more isolated than ever. Iran will have to make a decision. You know, it's interesting that when Operation Hammer happened that night and the nuclear facilities were taken out, Russia didn't come to their side. China didn't come to their side. Iran is standing alone. So they have this decision to make, and they are behind so many of these terrorist groups that have been wreaking havoc and hell across the Middle East for so long. So I think it'd be very interesting to know the thoughts of President Putin, because it does make the Ukraine situation look a little bit more malleable in this moment. And certainly China has to be watching this very closely as well.
Well, let me ask Ben Hall, who is with us, who has such a deep and personal connection to the Ukraine war. What do you think the president is thinking, President Putin?
Well, I think that from President Trump's perspective, there's one thing that has clearly been working, and that is you have to put a lot of pressure on one side to bring them to the table. You know, you think of what President Trump said to Hamas. He said, unless you come to the table, we will allow Israel to go till it's finished. And I think when it comes to Russia and to Putin, President Trump is moving in that direction. That President Putin is not going to come to the table unless an immense amount of pressure is put on him. We're hearing at the moment that tomahawks might be sent to Ukraine, that US intelligence might help with some of the aiming of those tomahawks, perhaps other secondary sanctions. And I think that is what President Trump has realized, and President Putin must be realizing that could be coming his way. We've started to see signs of it. And if President Trump puts that additional pressure on Vladimir Putin, if the lines for gas in Moscow and St. Petersburg get longer than the current few hours they already are, if public discontent continues to rise in Russia because of the actions that President Trump takes, then that will bring President Putin to the table. And I think President Putin will acknowledge that's what's happened with Hamas. It's about getting people together in one form and saying you either come to the table or we will hit you hard. And so I think Putin will be afraid of this happening. Look, he's also been afraid of seeing his ally Iran knocked to its knees. So he's losing allies, he's losing any sort of friends around the region, and I think Putin will be fearing that the same is coming his way, and he better be ready for it.
As we watch the motorcade prepare to accept President Trump and his team, Brett, it occurs to me that one of the things that is very frustrating today is that throughout this war, since October 7th, since October 8th, everyone has said, if Hamas were to release all the hostages right now today, the pounding in Gaza would end. And Hamas never would do that. It took this 2-year period in order for us to get there. All of these things had to happen, and I mean, maybe we'll live long enough to read the history of it. But Hamas made a choice here, and it wasn't for the well-being of the Palestinians. And I know that will be a conversation that they start to have today, but Hamas could have ended this early on and released the hostages, but they chose not to.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And we said that from the beginning, and the coverage is that the onus was on Hamas. And so as we saw all those protests all around the world and at college campuses and elsewhere, you know, the ceasefire now crowd, here we are at a ceasefire. And it was the result of a lot of diplomacy, a lot of peace through strength, as we talked about. But it was, in the end, Hamas releasing all of the hostages. It was complicated. And listen, to President Trump's point, he had to put the hammer down sometimes on Bibi Netanyahu to make sure that he held the line and took this deal. You know, I just want to point out as this motorcade pulls up, this is the Egyptian President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi. I went over to Egypt. I interviewed him early after he took over in June of 2014. He has always wanted to be at the center of some of the Middle East discussions of how things go forward. So this is a big moment for Egypt as well, to be able to host this Gaza Accord and all of these world leaders as they look for the future. And to Martha's point, I think that's a great point about Russia and China. Remember, just last week we had the rare earth mineral pushback from China about export controls, and it caused all this problem about what that relationship's going to look like. A lot of experts looked at that and said that is President Xi looking at the map of all the wins that President Trump is having around the world and all the influence he's having, and saying, hey, don't forget about me, I still have power. Look for Russia and China to make these marks, you know, to wave their arms, do something, but there is a possibility that all of that dynamic could change because, you know, wins beget wins, and it starts to fall downhill. And if the world is kind of coming together on the Middle East, could it come together on Russia-Ukraine? Could there be, you know, a bigger deal in China based on the success that President Trump is having right now? That's at least what the administration is hoping as you look at the Egyptian president ready to welcome President Trump to the tarmac.
Don, breaking just moments ago, former President Bill Clinton has released a statement on the ceasefire deal between Israel and Hamas. The horrors, I'm reading verbatim, the horrors of the October 7th, 2023 attack on Israel and the conflict they reignited have resulted in unbearable human loss, it reads. It has been hard to watch and nearly impossible to rationalize. It reads, I'm grateful that a ceasefire has taken hold, that the last 20 living hostages have been freed, and that desperately needed aid has begun to flow into Gaza. President Trump and his administration, Qatar, and other regional actors deserve great credit for keeping everyone engaged until the agreement was reached. Now, Israel and Hamas, with the support of the United States, the region, and the world, must try to turn this fragile moment into lasting peace that provides for the dignity and security of both Palestinians and Israelis. I believe that they can get there, but only if they do it together. And I go back to where we started these 2 hours, John, and that word, President Trump, used so many times in his speech at the peace ceremony in Egypt moments ago, together. And you saw him meeting with all these leaders from the Middle East. And this is how President Trump plans to move forward, together.
Yeah, and you know, he finally got some praise from some Democrats, Bill Clinton among them. Hillary Clinton mentioned it as well. John Fetterman said, now life, Ali Sharabi, former hostage, on resilience and optimism. The nightmare finally ends. May the hostages have a full recovery, and may we never forget those who didn't make it out alive. Credit to President Trump for a breakthrough ceasefire of this awful war. So Fetterman is talking about that. There are a number of other Democrats that are as well. So for the holdouts, like Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries and Nancy Pelosi, who just can't find it within their hearts to say that the president did a great job, you know, I'm not quite sure where they sit with their fellow Democrats. Yeah. As Yemisi Egbowale was saying, you know, it's an amazing accomplishment for a president of the United States to end this war when for for more than a year, the person who occupied 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue in the Oval Office didn't seem to be able to get it done. And then his former Secretary of State seems to assign credit to the Biden administration for a large part of this.
And John, I think we were all moved by the words of Daniel Sharabi, the survivor of that music festival, you know, reunited with his friend, held in captivity for 2 years. But his acknowledgement that while this is a day of celebration, this is a day of remembrance as well to all those whose lives were lost. And this, as we continue to watch the convoy, a somber return home of 4 coffins of the deceased hostages that a short time ago crossed into Israel, John. And this is a live look there as they make their way to the National Institute for Forensic Medicine, outside which we also have a live camera where we are seeing many gather there to see their return home, John.
Yes, we cannot forget that while 20 families are elated to have their loved ones back home, there are 28 families who will go into this evening knowing that their loved one, maybe their remains will come home, but they will never see them again. But it does give them some sense of closure finally after this long.
Hey, Sean.
Correspondent Trey Yingst, who spoke to the president earlier today in Tel Aviv, Israel. Benjamin, we'll start with you first. Please do share with us your thoughts from your unique perspective on this moment.
You know, first of all, I can't stop watching these videos of the hostages being reunited with their families. I mean, it is absolutely amazing to see, and I think it represents the pivotal moment we are in. Because you look at those videos and you look back, first of all, and you remember the horror that's happened. You remember October the 7th. You remember the war that's been going on for 2 years. And that is the moment where things change. And then you start looking ahead to the future. Now, that is true for these families, but it's also true for the region. You look back over the last couple of years and you see a region that was at war with one another. You see a region where Hezbollah, Hamas, the Houthis, Iran, the Shia militias in Iraq, Syria were strong. That has changed, and new allegiances have been born as well. President Trump being very close to Saudi Arabia, Qatar, the UAE, building up those relationships, his incredible relationship with Israel. So all of these things have happened to bring us to this moment, and President Trump personally has almost done it. 2 weeks since the 20-point peace plan was first being discussed, and already they are there. But now we have to look ahead. We know how difficult it will be for these families, perhaps, over the coming years to get over the PTSD and the difficulty. And it may also be difficult for the region, but that's where phase 2 comes into play. And we saw all those world leaders sitting there, listening to President Trump. And I think what we have to remember is the money is there, the will is there, but can they turn that and make phase 2 a success on the ground, decades and even perhaps centuries?
Absolutely. And Trey, you had the opportunity to speak with President Trump earlier. This was a big moment in the celebrations today when Benjamin Netanyahu thanked President Trump. This is call for 3, guys, if we have it teed up. Okay, let me just read it to you directly, Trey. Donald Trump is the greatest friend that the state of Israel has ever had in the White House. Mr. President, you are committed to this peace. I am committed to this peace. And together, Mr. President, we will achieve this peace. Give us your thoughts, Trey, after speaking to the president earlier.
Yes, Sandra, I spoke with President Trump earlier today, and what stood out to me is how much he actually cares about the region and the people here. This is the most powerful man in the world, and yet he purposefully delayed his schedule so he could spend more time with the families of hostages and hostages who had been freed in previous deals that he supported. And when you think about what this means, it means that you have a leader who is looking toward the future with an understanding of the realities on the ground. And those realities are that Israel is a population of nearly 10 million people. The Gaza Strip is a population of more than 2 million people. And the president has a vision for a future of the Middle East that would not have all of the violence and war that has ravished the Middle East for the past 2 years, as we've seen inside the Gaza Strip with the death and destruction following a horrific massacre on October 7th. And so this really does feel like a moment of change for the Middle East, an opportunity for countries around the world to come together. And the president, in his remarks at the Israeli Knesset, made that very point. He said from cities and states around the world that people should come together. And he almost alluded at the fact that there are going to be more normalization deals brokered by the Trump administration with countries like Indonesia, for example, or countries like Iraq even, or Syria, possibly Lebanon. He even extended an olive branch to Iran, a country that he targeted with airstrikes over the summer to stop the country from developing its nuclear program and going after a nuclear bomb. The bottom line here is that this president is looking for peace, and he capitalized on this with this meeting in Sharm el-Sheikh, Egypt, bringing together these world leaders that have the money and influence to actually get it done in the region. Because while the president wants to usher in this new chapter, he's made very clear he doesn't want U.S. boots on the ground inside Gaza. He's willing to have CENTCOM forces in an advisory role to ensure that this peace plan moves forward. But this is a regional plan that ultimately could lead to prosperity and stability across the Middle East, something the region has not seen in decades.
Excellent interview with the president earlier. Trey Yanks, Benjamin Hall, thanks to both of you for joining us here. Thank you very much.
Freed hostage Matan Angrest reuniting with his family. I mean, these are the sounds of these, and the siblings and the people who wait so that they can first hug mom and dad. It's really extraordinary. So President Trump said that this is the beginning of a new chapter for the whole Middle East.
It's the start of a grand concord and lasting harmony for Israel and all the nations of what will soon be a truly magnificent region. I believe that so strongly. This is the historic dawn of a new Middle East.
Chief National Security Correspondent Jennifer Griffin reporting live from Tel Aviv. Hi, Jen.
Hi, Martha. President Trump joked he wasn't quite sure what was happening when 6 Egyptian Air Force fighter jets greeted him as Air Force One left Israeli airspace en route to Sharm el-Sheikh for that signing ceremony with 35 nations signing the 20-point peace deal that President Trump oversaw. He said he assumed at the time that they were friendly.
This breakthrough that we're here to celebrate tonight is more than the end of the war in Gaza. It's with God's help, it'll be the new beginning for an entire beautiful Middle East.
President Trump thanked Egyptian President al-Sisi, who hosted the talks last week that led to the breakthrough in Gaza and the release of hostages today. He recognized the terrible loss of 3 Qatari negotiators who died in a tragic car accident after the deal was agreed to. President Trump also thanked Turkey's President Erdogan and called out the many Middle East leaders who he praised for having the wealth to rebuild Gaza.
Excellency President, you have demonstrated that genuine leadership doesn't mean war waging, rather the ability to bring it to a halt. We trust your leadership that is capable to carry out the current deal.
Peace has been achieved after untiring efforts led by President Trump, who is genuinely a man of peace. And today, again, I would like to nominate this great president for Nobel Peace Prize.
President Trump greeted the Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas, who just a few weeks ago was barred from attending the United Nations General Assembly because the State Department would not authorize a visa. How the Middle East has changed since then, Martha. 20 living Israeli hostages returned home today. 4 of the 28 dead hostages returned from Hamas to their families here in Israel. We expect more in the coming days, but a little bit disappointing for some of those Israeli families. And then nearly 2,000 Palestinian prisoners and detainees returned to cheering crowds in the Gaza Strip, where the rebuilding is going to begin. Back to you, Martha.
Jennifer.
There you have it, you guys. So they are saying historic today, peace in the Middle East. Donald Trump signing that in Egypt. You can see peace in the Middle East. Trump signs the ceasefire deal in Egypt. And now they're saying that phase 2 of this is about to start. So we're going to be seeing where we go from here. I'm going to keep you guys up to date every step of the way, but this all absolutely historic signing unfolding. And if you appreciate the way that Donald Trump is handling all of this, drop a 47 in the comments. Don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to stay up to date. I'll keep you up to speed on everything. Now, we're also hearing that attention is going to be turning towards Russia, Ukraine, all the conflict that's taking place over in Europe and Asia and NATO as well. I'm going to keep you up to speed on that. And also, we're hearing there is potential trade war conflicts going on with China. And we are hearing, coming out today, Speaker of the House Mike Johnson has said that we are in a historic government shutdown. This might be the longest ever in American history, because right now, as of today, October the 13th, 2025, we're still in the shutdown. There is no end in sight. I saw that they said they are calling for a stopgap, but right now, the government shutdown still in place. The Republicans, Democrats, not able to agree on anything. I will keep you up to speed every step of the way. But there you have it, you guys. The latest coming out on a historic peace agreement made today, October 13th, 2025, signed in Egypt, brokered by the United States, Donald Trump, Steve Witkoff, Jared Kushner, and we're seeing peace in the Middle East brokered. And also, Donald Trump and his son-in-law, Jared Kushner, helped broker the peace agreement with the Abraham Accords as well. So Trump and Kushner together coming again for another peace agreement in the Middle East. Absolutely historic. I will keep you guys up to date as more unfolds. But thank you so much for joining me, and I'll catch you in the next one. Take care. God bless. This is